Esther, thank you. Prescient? That's only a Columbia professor would use the word prescient. Thank you for inviting us to this gala and for allowing me to tell my mother, in all honesty, that I went to shul today. And best, I have my sister to testify. Actually, Marjorie, I talked to Mother about 20 minutes ago. She wasn't quite hear everything I said, but I said I was coming here, and I asked her, had she ever been here? And she said no. Had she been? She said, yeah, she said she did not. But I do have a friend who lives in the Upper East Side, a reasonably successful, very wealthy guy, and his son just moved down to the Lower East Side, where it's a hot neighborhood, and he pointed out that's where his parents came from. What goes around certainly comes around. Anyways, let me first say that the Eldridge Street Synagogue is standing here in all of its glory, and the window is spectacular, because of a few strong-willed and dedicated women who simply, it's impossible to say no to. And I know this from experience. They include museum founder Roberta Gratz, who also serves has just been a tireless champion of preserving our city's rich history. Executive Director Bonnie Diamond, our fantastic Cultural Affairs Commissioner Kate Levin, there you are. Esther, who our administration survived. Esther's very tough to say no to. I mean, when Esther wants something, she just works you over again and again. And nothing else I've learned, particularly with my two daughters, is in the end you just say yes, dear. Anything. Esther has always been one of my heroes. She has done an enormous amount for the city, and she was certainly one of the guiding lights in our administration. And we miss her, but fortunately, this little university uptown, it's not Johns Hopkins, but that's okay. It's doing all right. We also have Susie Friedman, a long-standing advocate of Eldridge Street, who played an important role behind the scenes in the early stages of this renovation, you should know. And thank you all, and also to Michael Weinstein and the rest of the board and the museum staff, who not only preserved this historic structure, but also for breathing new life into it. When we look up at the crowning achievement of this more than 20-year restoration, the spectacular contemporary window by artist Kiki Smith and architect Deborah Gans, really is a window into our city's future, if you think about it. And yet it's anchored by a structure that holds the story of our past. This is where most of us came from. If not us, our parents or grandparents or some parts of our family. The synagogue has been a center of life for so many generations of Jewish immigrants who settled on the Lower East Side and worked from dawn until dusk until they could provide a life for their families that was better than the one they left in the old country. And today that story is still being played out in this neighborhood. The names and faces may have changed, and some of those delis have been replaced by dim sum houses, but the ethos of is the same. Dream big, work hard, and watch your children succeed beyond your wildest expectations. And if there's anything that we should really worry about is this turning away from the immigrant communities that seems to have taken over parts of this country, and the intolerance that has come with a lot of people. There's somebody tonight said to me, they reminded me of topics I actually thought had gone away. It's certainly going to go away on November 3rd, but the issue of a group that wanted to build either a mosque or an Islamic cultural center right next to Ground Zero. Next to is a block and a half away, and there's another mosque a couple blocks away, and there are porno parlors right there, but that's neither here nor there. And this woman was Jewish, and I just wanted to say to her, you know, if there's any group that should be supportive of people's right to pray any ways they want, to anybody they want, any place they want, raising money any place they can, hiring anybody to run the service or say what they want to say, it is the Jews who are here in this country who have a history of being persecuted around the world. We have to stand up and make sure. And I remember my father once made a donation to the NAACP, and I asked him why, and he said because discrimination against anyone is discrimination against everyone. And we have an obligation to make sure we explain that to our children. Diane and I were a few weeks ago having a hamburger at a place on 74th and 3rd, J.G. Mellon's, and this big hulking guy comes up and he says, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Sure." I got a hamburger in one hand, beer in the other. I said, "What do you want to talk about?" And he said, "The mosque." I said, "I need this like I need a hole in the head." And he said he had just gotten back from 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he said a couple of his friends did not come back. And he said, "You get out there and keep reminding Americans why we are over there fighting." And I just think it tells you, that most Americans really do understand the value of the First Amendment. They don't think of it that way maybe, but the value of, they want to build their church or their synagogue where they want to do it. And if they're going to have the right to do that, they know they've got to protect other people's rights to build their house of worship. So we've got to be careful here in this country that in an economic downturn, we don't throw away what built America, and we've got to make sure that we get Congress to have comprehensive immigration reform so that people from around the world can come here, because the future of our country really is in jeopardy. People who can't come here are going elsewhere, and they're creating the next best thing, and they're creating the jobs that we need elsewhere in the world. We're in a competition, and this country was built, this neighborhood, if you go back and look, you see the old pictures of New York. If this was the center of the great American dream. People came by the Statue of Liberty, came through Ellis Island, and they came to the Lower East Side, and they were Jews and Irish and Polish and Catholics and this and that and the other thing. And against every group there was some intolerance. My grandmother, my mother's mother, my mother's 101, and so her mother was born 135 years ago in the Lower East Side. What number Mott Street? 72 Mott Street. There's still a discussion in the family whether that's really a number. But she, at one time, she came here with her 2 younger sisters who have long since passed on, and they went to 72 Mott Street, climbed to the 4th floor, 5th floor, where supposedly their mother was born, knocked on the door, and somebody screamed at them in Chinese and wouldn't let them in. But anyways, the museum here honors the immigrant experience. It really has always been the core of our city, and it's done an exceptional job of opening its doors to all communities and teaching and reinforcing tolerance. And that really stays true to its original mission of providing Jews with a community and a place of worship. This embrace of tolerance and diversity really has never been more needed, and it's exactly why the city is so proud to have provided support for the renovation and the museum program, especially its educational program. And we're honored to have helped fund the incredible collaboration between Kiki and Deborah that created the window. Of course, the museum would not be here today without the amazing support of individual givers. And thank you all for supporting this national treasure and for contributing to the thriving downtown arts community that attracts so many visitors to our city each year. The significance of this museum to our city and to our nation is evidenced by the breadth of support of its restoration. Michael talked about that. More than 18,000 grassroots donors, you should know, from all over the world who have contributed to what you see today. And another group that deserves our thanks is the volunteer docents who were recognized earlier this year by First Lady Michelle Obama as Preserve American Stewards. And they should be thanked for all they do for the city. So we are off to, my next stop is the Diocese of Brooklyn's fundraiser at the Marriott Hotel with Archbishop Damasio. And I will tell him where I came from. Only in New York could you do this. Then we're going to something, a shoe show gala or something. It's a fundraiser for something at Jazz at Lincoln Center. I'm sure all of you will be there. But whether you've contributed time or money, thank you for the bottom of our hearts for your support for the Eldridge Street Museum, a home for the 21st century. And this building really does remind us how far we've come over the last 123 years. And it encourages us to do even better, think better, and open our hearts. So if this building's 123 years old, Grandma was born before this building. Yeah, must have been. 83 she was born? I remember that very well. Thank you all, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bloomberg.